Welcome to Canadian Football League Weekly, presented by the World of Football. Each week, we recap the games played up north in the CFL, and we also look ahead to next week's games. Our mission here is to educate American football fans on the teams and players in the CFL in the hopes that they will come to love this league as much as we do. I'm Randy Snow, and I'm joined by my son, Adam.
Hi there, everybody. Happy playoff time in the CFL. It's one of the best times of the year. Can't believe it's November already. God, the season started off back in June.
May, actually.
May with the preseason, but here we are.
Yeah.
It's been a long season, 21 weeks, now 22 weeks for us doing this show. What a ride it's been. The most Canadian football we've crammed into our eyeballs, in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And having fun doing it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but man, we have watched, as much as we love the CFL, we have watched more football this year in the CFL than we ever have before. So let's get right into the two Divisional Semi-Final games that happened this past week. On Saturday, it was the Eastern Semi-Final game, which saw the Ottawa Red Blacks taking on the Toronto Argonauts. In the first quarter, Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown connected with Braylon Addison in the end zone for the first touchdown of the game, and the Red Blacks took a 10-0 lead. In the second quarter, Mackay Polk made his presence known when he caught a 70-yard touchdown pass from Chad Kelly, making the score 13-10 in favor of Ottawa. Later in the quarter, Toronto took the lead for the first time in the game, 17-16, when Davaris Daniels caught a 41-yard touchdown pass from Kelly. With just 6 seconds to go before halftime, Jalen Acklin caught a touchdown pass, giving Ottawa a 23-17 lead. But with 3 seconds left, kicker Lyram Hiralahu kicked a 53-yard field goal, and Toronto trailed 23-20 at halftime. In the third quarter, Kelly threw his second touchdown pass to Davaris Daniels, and Toronto had a 27-23 lead. Kelly also had a 15-yard touchdown run to increase the Argos' lead to 34-23. In the fourth quarter, it was Jake Herslow catching a touchdown pass for Toronto and increasing their lead to 41-26. Ottawa backup quarterback Dustin Crum scored on a 1-yard touchdown run, but a 2-point conversion failed, and Toronto still led 41-32. But late in the game, the Argos defense intercepted Drew Brown twice, and both were returned for touchdowns. The first interception was caught by linebacker Winton McManus, who lateraled the ball back to defensive back Tavares McFadden, who ran it back 32 yards for a touchdown. The second interception was returned 71 yards for a touchdown by defensive back Benji Franklin, as Toronto won the game 58-38. Toronto quarterback Chad Kelly completed 18 of 20 passes for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also ran the ball twice for 29 yards and had a rushing touchdown. Wide receiver Mackay Polk had 4 catches for 158 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Davaris Daniels had 4 catches for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kicker Lyram Hiralahu was 3 for 3 on field goals, the longest from 53 yards. For Ottawa, quarterback Drew Brown completed 46 of 61 passes for 476 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Running back Braylon Addison ran the ball 4 times for 17 yards, but more importantly, he had 10 catches for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton had 13 catches for 123 yards. Kicker Lewis Ward was 4 for 4 on field goals, the longest from 42 yards. Yeah, this was the first playoff start for Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown ever, I think. And Ottawa was in the postseason for the first time since they won a Grey Cup back in 2019. The score tied a CFL record for the most combined points in a playoff game with 96 points. Can you believe that?
That's a
The
lot.
Argos are in the Eastern Finals for the 4th year in a row, and Toronto outscored Ottawa in the fourth quarter by a score of 36-15. So this was just an incredible game for Toronto. I was so happy to see it.
38-15, I think, is what you have in the notes here.
So you know. 38-15. I'm so excited by Argos won. I can't even talk straight. It was a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. I had to watch it on my laptop. I swore that these playoff games were going to be on CBS Sportsnet. They were not. I'm sorry.
No.
I read that somewhere. Or I heard it, but um, yeah, I still had to pull out my laptop to watch these two games, and I'll probably have to do the same thing next week. But yeah, what a
Well, I
great win
luckily
for Toronto.
right, but luckily CFL Plus, which I think is one of the best
Yes.
streaming thing, it's awesome. You
Yep.
don't pay for it. You just give them your email. It's perfect for anybody out there. Like
Yep.
seriously, it's great. But for me, I watched this game. I caught pretty much the first half. I think second half, I think I had stuff going on, so I had to miss the second half. But the first half was back and forth, back and forth, and then the crazy ending to that half, which was kind of left out of the highlights, there was when Ottawa took that go-ahead touchdown, and then they kicked the ball back off to Toronto with like no time. Like okay, there's 5 seconds, whatever. It looked like they squib kicked it. I don't know what they were trying to do. It was a very bizarre play where they scored, then they kicked it off, and essentially gave Toronto the ball back. It was like an onside kick almost. Gave Toronto the ball back in field goal position, which allowed Hiralahu to kick that field goal to get an easy 3 points to end the half. So instead of having a 7-point lead going into halftime, they had a 4-point lead, but then Toronto came out obviously and just dominated the second half regardless. But still, why would you give Toronto that type of any sort of leeway in that situation? It was a very bizarre situation.
Yeah. Yeah, they gave him excellent field position, and a couple of plays later, they just kicked 3 more points before the halftime.
It was not even that. It was 3 seconds left, and they just kicked the field goal right away. There was no plays in between there. That was what was crazy. It was 1/3 like, well, just send the kicker out there. Let's try to get this before we end the half, and they did. It was like they just gave him 3 points for no reason. Like they didn't even make Toronto like work for it. That's the crazy part. And we talked about on our main podcast, This Week in the World of Football. Go check that out wherever good podcasts are available or on this YouTube channel. But we talked about this on the podcast about how all year I have been banging the drum for Ottawa that they were the second best team in the CFL. They looked great. Then they hit that 5-game skid. And then it's like, oh boy, I hope they can right the ship. And it looked like towards the end, the last few games, maybe they kind of got their stuff figured back out. But Toronto just figured their stuff out a little sooner, I think, than Ottawa could, and took advantage of them there in that playoff game. And like you said, 4 straight Eastern Division Championship games now Toronto will be playing in. So, but a heck of a game. 96 points is nothing to sneeze at. Shoot, that's. Yeah. Are you not entertained watching this game? You should have been entertained, in droves. So, this is a great game. Great game.
Yeah. As a Toronto fan, I know you're a Toronto fan too. This was a great game. Seeing them score that many points was awesome.
Yeah. Like it would have bummed me out if Toronto would have lost this game because we talk about like, well, we root for Toronto. We love all the teams. There's like no bad. I don't hate any of these teams. So if the Red Blacks would have won, I would have been like, good for them. First time since they won the Grey Cup, they've done something. Right. So I don't know, but just all I love or all that I really care about at the end of the day really is, was it a great game? And it was. Also on Saturday, it was the Western Semi-Final game between the British Columbia Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. In the first quarter, BC scored a touchdown when Vernon Adams connected with Javon Katoy on a 56-yard touchdown catch and run for a 6-0 lead. In the second quarter, A.J. Ouellette moved up under center and took the snap and scored on a 1-yard touchdown run, making the score 13-6 in favor of the Roughriders. But with 38 seconds left in the first half, Vernon Adams found Justin McInnis in the end zone, and BC tied the score 13-all at halftime. In the third quarter, A.J. Ouellette scored his second rushing touchdown of the game on a 30-yard run to give Saskatchewan a 20-13 lead. Then in the fourth quarter, Jareth Stearns caught a 13-yard touchdown pass from Trevor Harris. A 2-point conversion pass to Keyshawn Johnson was good, and it made the score 28-19 for Saskatchewan. That turned out to be the final score as Saskatchewan advances to the Western Final next week. Saskatchewan quarterback Trevor Harris completed 26 of 33 passes for 279 yards and a touchdown. Running back A.J. Ouellette carried the ball 14 times for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. And wide receiver Samuel Emelis led the receivers with 9 catches for 106 yards. For British Columbia, quarterback Vernon Adams completed 20 of 33 passes for 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He also punted the ball once for 44 yards. Wide receiver Javon Katoy had 3 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, while wide receiver Justin McInnis had 5 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. look, I know British Columbia was hoping to make it to the Grey Cup this season since it's being played in their home building, right there in BC Place in Vancouver. It just wasn't meant to be. Even with, I thought, giving Vernon Adams the start as kind of the hot-handed quarterback. Nathan Rourke was there too, but I get it. You give Vernon Adams the nod. He was kind of playing pretty decent the
Yeah.
last week or two. But this is the first time in 3 years, though, for Saskatchewan that they have made the playoffs, and then to advance to the Western Finals is a pretty big deal. And those Rough Riders, have been a sneaky team all year. So I think it's going to be a good matchup that they're going to stumble into.
Yeah. I really wasn't favoring either team in this game. Maybe I was rooting a little bit for BC because Nathan Rourke was there, but he wasn't even playing. So um, you could just tell that Saskatchewan was the better team that day. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the best team won and moves on to the next round.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of me that was kind of like, oh, I hope BC kind of does gets far enough. Maybe they get to the championship game to play in their home stadium. That would have been interesting, but just like you said, not meant to be. And Saskatchewan, though, they've been a team that could have probably had a chance, to take that West Division. They just, couldn't quite get it and take it from the Blue Bombers. So instead, they'll get to go to Winnipeg. They'll get to take on the Blue Bombers in a sold-out game. We talked about that. That the Blue Bombers, they sold that thing out. So that's going to be a crazy environment. Should be a lot of fun. I give the Rough Riders a shot in this one, but we'll see. I think we're going to have two really good finals this upcoming weekend in the CFL.
All right, looking ahead to the playoffs next weekend in the East Division Finals on Saturday, it's going to be Toronto at Montreal. That's going to be a 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. And in the other game, it's going to be the Western Division Finals, also on Saturday, Saskatchewan at Winnipeg. That's a 6:30 p.m. kickoff. Now, talking about the Toronto game, Toronto and Montreal are meeting in the Eastern Finals for the third consecutive season. Toronto is making a fourth straight appearance in the divisional round. Montreal also won last year's game in the East Division, 38-17. So
yeah, that was a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, they're meeting for the third time in a row, but I think it really hurt last year because 2 years ago they beat them. They beat Montreal. Last year they lost to Montreal. Montreal won it all. So now Toronto has a chance to avenge their loss from last year because nobody saw Toronto coming last year in the playoffs. They barely made the playoffs, and then they win the whole
No,
thing.
nobody saw Montreal coming last year.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Toronto, but it's okay. It happens.
I meant Toronto lost to Montreal last year, and
Yep.
nobody saw Montreal.
I didn't
coming.
see it coming. You didn't see it coming.
No,
maybe
absolutely
some
not.
Alouette fans saw it come. But yeah, total
Sure.
shocker last year. But Toronto, I think the last time these two met this season, Toronto took care of business. They got the win in Montreal. So I think this should be a heck of a game here. Toronto, I think, is capable of getting some revenge there in Montreal to take that win, take their soul. Sorry to our friend Tim, who's a Montreal fan. I think Toronto's going to go in there and take it. But it should still be a heck of a game. I mean, Montreal is no slouch. Obviously, they're the defending champions. And until they are dethroned, they are the defending champions. So I'm excited to see this game and excited to see what happens. But, of course, I'm pulling for our Argos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, here's my notes from the Saskatchewan at Winnipeg game. Winnipeg is hosting its fourth straight Western Final game, and the team is playing in the West Finals for the sixth consecutive season. Winnipeg is no stranger to the finals and to the Grey Cup, so I don't know if that's going to really give them an advantage or what, but yeah, they're no stranger to this game. Winnipeg has played in the last four Grey Cup games. They won the game in 2019 and 2021. Both those games were against Hamilton. There was no game in 2020 because the season was canceled due to COVID, and they lost in 2022 to Toronto, and they lost last year to Montreal. So Winnipeg has got something to say about whoever they play. They're looking for revenge on either one of them because they've lost to both teams in the last 2 years. And all this after Winnipeg started the season 0-4. That's just
0-4 and then 2-6 at one point. That was kind of the moment we were wondering if we were going to have to write them off or not.
Yeah. We knew they were going to turn it around, and they did.
We figured they would.
Yeah.
We figured they would turn it around. It was we kind of were at that point at the 2-6 mark. We're like, this is the make or break. Do they keep losing or do they start stringing some stuff together? And what did they do? They only strung 8 games together after that straight.
Yep.
Like, so Winnipeg, they're a formidable opponent. They are consistent, if anything.
Yes.
And but I do think they're going to have their hands full with this Saskatchewan team. This is probably as good of a CFL finals weekend as you can ask for. I think all 4 of these teams are legitimate. I think all 4 of these teams could win the Grey Cup. It's just we'll have to wait and see how everything kind of plays out.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. A couple of really great games, and I can't wait to see who's going to be in the Grey Cup game because the winners this weekend advance to the Grey Cup game, and I want to see Toronto go. And after that, I don't care who they play, but I would love to see Toronto go this year.
And it also, I mean, whoever goes to the Grey Cup, obviously you're going to pack your Canadian Hawaiian shirts for both teams, I would assume, that weekend.
Oh, yeah. I got a Toronto scarf and I've got a couple of shirts. So, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to.
But if
to
Toronto
be a
doesn't
fan.
make it, you're prepared. You got the Saskatchewan shirt, right? You got the Winnipeg shirt.
I've got shirts for everybody, so I'm covered. But this is the one I'm going to pack first, hopefully.
Okay. Right on. Yeah. Hey, like I said, as much as I'm rooting for Toronto to get to the finals, truly at the end of the day, though, all I absolutely care about is great games. Entertain me. Have both teams play with everything. Throw everything in the kitchen sink at these games and get to that championship game. I want to see it. Like, it's what makes the CFL some of the best football on the planet. So,
yeah. Both teams, or all 4 teams, need to leave it all on the field. Don't leave anything on the sidelines. Put it all out there on the field, and may the best teams win. And we'll be watching.
Heck yeah!
Looking forward to a great weekend. Last thing,
like
I said, this round of the playoffs was not on CBS Sportsnet. I don't believe that this upcoming weekend is going to be on CBS Sportsnet. So you're going to have to go to CFL Plus to check it out. But I do believe that the championship game is going to be on CBS Sportsnet. So we'll be there, so we won't have to worry about watching it on TV.
But like I said, CFL Plus is great.
Yeah, CFL Plus is really good. I can always set my DVR at home and watch the game when we get home. So that'll be fun too.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all the time we've got for this week. Tune in again next week when Adam and I will review the East and West Division Finals that will determine which teams are headed to the Grey Cup in Vancouver on November 17th, where we will be in attendance. Can't say that enough. So remember, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than Adam and I sitting here in Kalamazoo. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And I'm Adam Snow.
We'll see you all next week, somewhere around the 55-yard line.
Love you, Canada.